good day. We are very pleased to introduce our featured speaker. But before we do, let's just go over a couple of things. We have currently 89 participants online. Welcome to all. We're going to ask that and have everyone remain muted throughout the presentation, except for occasions when there will be opportunities for questions, which we will be waiting. We will be asking you to put questions into the chat toward the end of the presentation. And I believe Ben will have an opportunity for some interactions that will be also directed to the chat. So this will be how we will connect with our speaker today. So without further ado, allow me please to introduce to Ben Talsma. And before I do that, Ben is a representative, a learning specialist from the Van Andel Institute. The Van Andel Institute is a wonderful organization that is based in Grand Rapids, Michigan, USA. They have been specializing in areas of research within biotechnology, and alongside of their work in supporting scientists and researchers, they are specialized in areas of education. They have a beautiful campus that serves as a laboratory for learning and for teachers and students to work alongside one another with experimental approaches such as project-based learning. And Mr. Talsma is a specialist in this area. He has been an experienced educator, in fact, for more than 25 years. Ben really loves helping teachers help students. This is what makes him thrive. And he's been doing this across the United States and abroad, focusing on how curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking can transform classrooms. These are some of the things which he hopes to introduce to you today. And as teachers and educators, I can well imagine you've already been doing some of this in your own practice. And this webinar will give you a chance to learn more and hopefully inspire you to apply what we will all learn today from Ben. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Ben for the remainder of the presentation.
Thanks so much. I'm extremely excited to be joining you today to explore ideas around authentic learning and project-based learning in any environment. This is a topic I'm super passionate about because in my experience as an educator, we've got something of a problem in some situations. We've got traditional schooling where we present information to students. We expect them to memorize that and then to apply that to their life. Quite often it feels like that is just bouncing off their head, that it's not being internalized, that it's not being applied successfully. And so in order to crack that, it's my hope today that we can explore how to make authentic learning, project-based learning really come to life. One misconception, one struggle that people have with project-based learning or with authentic instruction is this feeling like you have to have all sorts of fancy equipment or access to maker spaces or technology. It's my hope today that we can explore ways to make this come to life and actions. The tools, the skills, the talents, the abilities of our students and our teachers, their willingness to address problems in their community. That's what project-based learning is defined by. And I want to explore some specific ways to bring that to life today. In order to do that, we've got a pretty simple agenda. First of all, we're going to explore the why. Why is this approach to education so powerful? Then we're going to move from the why to the what. What are the characteristics that define great project-based learning? And finally, we want to explore the how, the details of how to create great authentic learning, great projects in any environment. So we talked about the why, the what, the how. Let's talk just a little bit about the who. That is me, Ben Talsma. I am, as William mentioned, an educator with over 25 years of experience. I am dressed up a little bit there because I do like to try to keep learning fun for the students I work with, because I still work with students on a regular basis, and also for the teachers I interact with. As mentioned, I am part of this really strange organization, the Van Andel Institute, which just right up the hill from me has a world-class science research institute where they are studying diseases like cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Those people are using their minds, using what they've learned to try to have a positive impact on the world. And down here in our building, our job is themselves, but for their communities and for the world. So we do that in a couple of different ways. We work with students on a regular basis to allow them to do that very thing, to use what they know, to use what they can do in order to make a positive impact. We also create resources to support teachers across the country and around the world. And primarily, my job is to work with teachers to help them improve their instruction, to improve their pedagogy, and to have a more powerful impact. One of the big tools that we use in order to do that is project-based learning, this authentic instruction where students are figuring out how to use what they're learning in order to have a positive impact. When I work with teachers, I love to take a very specific approach. I share a variety of different ideas, a variety of different ways that teachers are dealing with the challenges they're facing. And then I allow the educators to pick and choose the ones that are the most relevant and will be the most impactful for them. There are a lot of different great ways to be a teacher. There are a lot of different contexts in which teachers operate, and no one idea will solve all the problems for all the teachers. So I trust teachers to be able to explore a variety of different ideas and to pick the ones that are relevant to them. I hope that happens for you today, that you encounter a couple of ideas that you can take back to your environment and become a little bit more awesome educator than you already are. Along the way, I also hope to cultivate the opportunity to share ideas, because there's a lot more wisdom and expertise in the audience than there is in my office. So I want to create some opportunities, some space today for you to share the ideas that you're finding success with as we think about the topic of authentic instruction. So, as we promised in the agenda, let's start off with the why. Why is authentic learning? Why is PBL so powerful? One frame that we can use to think about this is to think about the world that our students are going to grow up into, and to think about that through an economic lens. Our students right now are entering a fast changing world. They are dealing with all sorts of trends that are changing our world more quickly than ever before: urbanization, automation, inflation, digitization. So when we think about that world and preparing our students for it, the World Economic Forum did a survey across a variety of different cultures and countries and identified the most desirable skills for economic success in the 21st century. I'm going to be quiet for just a moment and let you take a look at some of those skills, just to reflect on what you're noticing. No need to share it at this point, just internalize that a little. Now, as we think about those skills and we think about authentic instruction, as we think about project-based learning, one thing that jumps out to me is that in a good PBL experience, every single one of those skills gets emphasized. Students need to think flexibly. They need to work with others and practice some of that negotiation. This is a big one for me, that service orientation, that desire to make the world a better place. They get an opportunity not just to hear about that, but to actually do it. And right on down that list, in a good PBL experience, all of these things are skills that students get to practice integrating into their work. But it's not just about economics, of course. We also want to prepare students to live full, rich, flourishing lives. So UNICEF did a look into those skills and identified 10 essential skills to cultivate in students to help them live rich, full lives. Again, I'll give you just a second to read through those, to process, to reflect on that list of skills, and then we'll notice another important thing about it. One thing I notice is there are some areas of similarity and some areas of difference, comparing this to that previous list of economic skills. Another thing that I notice is that, again, in a great project-based learning experience, in a great authentic learning experience, all of these skills are things that students get to put into practice. And so part of the reason that I believe so strongly in PBL is that it gives students a chance to work on the skills that are absolutely most important in preparing them for the world, both the economic world and the world of just living a rich, full human life. Now, it's also a well-researched phenomenon that when we do project-based learning, it can help students actually retain what they learn, right? Instead of those ideas bouncing off, it sticks with them because they see the application. It can help them work on some of those skills like problem solving and collaboration. It can help students improve their attitude toward learning because they see why it matters. It prepares them again for the world they're going to grow into, and it can work in any school situation because at the heart of PBL is students, their skills, their talents, their abilities, and their willingness to put those into action to make a positive difference. Really, when it comes down to it, when I think about this question of why PBL is so powerful, to me, it's because most of us went into education because we believe that education can help make the world a better place. Often in education, that impact comes years down the road. But PBL gives us a chance to see that in action today, to help students understand that, yes, the things that you're learning because they can help you to make the world a better place. Now, again, that's my why. That's why I care about this topic, but I want to give you an opportunity to share your thinking. So in the chat box, we're going to try something. If it completely fails, we will try something new or we'll change it up a little bit. But I'm linking to a resource called a Padlet. And if you see down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a plus. If you're able, you can add an idea. You can add a reason why you think project-based learning is so important. You can enter a subject up here. You can add some additional text down here. You can even add a picture if you'd like. So I'm going to give you just a couple of minutes to add your why, to add your reason. Why do you think PBL and authentic learning are important? I'll give you just a minute or two, and as you enter them, click this publish button, and they will appear on the wall for all of us to see and to benefit from. See a number of people are typing up here, which is great, to share why you think project-based learning, authentic learning is so powerful. Just a minute or two to finish up. Love this. It stirs creativity. Wonderful. Question about training materials. I will share my slide deck that links to all of the resources with the organizers. Hopefully they're able to share that out. Building teamwork. Again, you can look at this on the Padlet or in the chat. Now we're starting to get some ideas popping up. Wonderful ideas. And now that you see all of these ideas popping up from all of your colleagues, you can go through and you can see which ones really resonate with you. You can make comments on them. You can like the ones that really resonate just by clicking on that little heart. This is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your ideas. Again, there's way more understanding, way more expertise, way more wisdom out there amongst you than there is over here. So I hope that this document is really valuable as you think about grounding your rationale for project-based learning. Give you just a minute to kind of look over what your colleagues have shared, to like the ones that really resonate with you. Everybody has their own reasons for finding this valuable. I hope that you really believe in the power here, and maybe this activity, this experience can help you see that power through the eyes of your colleagues as well. All right, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. Again, I really do believe that that's where a ton of the value of an experience like this is, being able to see the ideas of your colleagues. So thank you so much for sharing. We're going to move now from that why and get into the what. We're going to think about what defines great project-based learning. What are the characteristics or the elements of excellent PBL? So our process here at the Institute looked across the country and really around the world at different teachers who were doing project-based learning with success, who are really helping students have transformative learning experiences. And then we said, what do they have in common? What do all of those experiences provide? Now, I'm going to have us do another activity where we have an opportunity to share. I'm going to think about what you think the elements of great PBL are. Again, I'm going to share something with you right here. All you have to do is type your answer here, and it will help us generate a word cloud just like this that will help us process what we think the characteristics of exemplary project-based learning are. What are those PB elements, those elements of great PBL? So when we look at teachers who are doing this successfully, what do they tend to do in common? What are they doing with their students to really make these experiences excellent? I shared that link in the chat. If you click on that, it should take you to a screen that looks like this. What are those powerful PB elements? You can submit lots of different answers. So after you put an idea, please feel free Somebody entered in the chat communication. Let's submit that. Oh, I like this. And again, I'll share this link in the chat so that you can put things directly into the poll. Melody, I love that. So over here, I'm creating a word cloud with this. This is what the responses of your colleagues are emphasizing here. So you can see that when we think about project-based learning, some of the things that drift toward the top are things like creativity, allowing students to think about solving open-ended challenges. There's not just one right answer, but multiple ways to address this problem. Creative thinking is one of those skills that's going to help them live great lives, and it's economically vital. So I love that. This is hands-on, right? They're actually doing stuff. It's focused on student learning. There's a mental component to this, right? A psychological component. It's practical. I love this. Thank you for sharing those. Looks like we've had so many responses. The activity is already full. Those in the chat, outstanding. Thank you so much. I love that. Just an opportunity before I share some ideas to let you generate some of the things you think already. So the Buck Institute here in the United States has come up with 7 characteristics of great PBL. It's outstanding research that we help to use guide our process as well. So first, we've got this challenging problem or question, right? There's something that students have to wrestle with, something that makes them curious. Then they have an opportunity to engage in sustained inquiry. Both of those words are important. This is a long-term process. It's not just one lesson and done. And it's inquiry, this challenge. We're not telling them how to do it. We're allowing them to be problem solvers. We want this to be authentic. And we'll explore that idea of authenticity a little bit more deeply in just a moment. We want them to be using the same sorts of tools and wrestling with a challenge in a real way, just like somebody would outside the walls of our classroom. We want to give students voice and choice. We want them to have some freedom to make some decisions. We want to give them opportunities for reflection along the way, to get some critiques and to make those revisions. Part of the power of project-based learning is that students can start with something and then see how they can improve it over time as they engage in multiple iterations, multiple versions of this project. And finally, we want something public that comes from this experience, something that breaks outside of the walls of our classroom and has an impact on the world. In terms of building that experience for students, this is the pathway that we came up with. It helps to integrate these elements in a way that's super practical for teachers. So we always start with why. We get students to understand the importance of this thing that we're doing. When we capture the heart, the mind will follow. Then, once we've got them emotionally engaged in the process, we want them to think it through. We want them to understand the things they need to understand in order to do this successfully. Once they have that understanding, then we let them think like engineers. We let them engineer their solution by working it out, doing that hands-on work that you identified as so important in our word cloud. And not just to do it once, but to have an opportunity to fix it up, to make it better. before they finally have that public product, before they share their awesome with the world. I've been looking a little bit at some of the work from Design for Change, which has a really similar approach to this, right? They want to capture share. I like our approach a little bit better because of that fix it up component, right? Because we have that explicit revision, that explicit iteration in our process. All these different approaches to PBL have one big thing in common. They think about engaging the whole child. We want the student to be emotionally engaged. We want them to be physically engaged in hands-on work. And we want them to be cognitively engaged. We want them to be doing deep thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking. This is a virtuous cycle. This is a virtuous circle. All these things support each other. If they're really emotionally invested, they're more likely to get engaged in that hands-on work and in that cognitive work. If they have an opportunity to get their hands on stuff and to do some building and making and creating, they're going to think more deeply about it. So each of these reinforces the others. Project-based learning at its very heart is about giving kids authentic learning experiences which engage the whole child. When we think about authenticity, we think about the difference between the real thing, and a simulation. In my classroom, for a long time, I taught second graders. I also taught middle schoolers, I taught fourth graders. But we did this activity that was a market day, where students had to think about what needs existed in the community, and then they had to actually make something that they could put out for sale. In my experience, students did this by taking out a small loan, by making money, by paying that back, and then by actually being able to take some of that money home. Right up the hill, right up the hall, I should say, in the sixth grade classroom, they did the same thing, except they used fake money, right? They used artificial approaches to this project. And which of those two things do you think students were more engaged in? The one that was authentic, the one they were trying to really make money out of, or the one that they were just getting tickets for? Well, it was the one that was authentic, the one that did the real thing. I use that to illustrate the difference, right? The difference between a simulation and something that's done authentically. Now, maybe that doesn't work for every environment, but I use it to show that distinction. To whatever degree possible, we should be trying to push projects toward an authentic experience, not a simulated experience. What does that look like in action? I've collected a variety of different examples of PBL being put into practice across Nigeria, but also across the continent of Africa. So Design for Change has a number of examples of these. These are elementary students who are working on local agriculture by building a sack farm and a small greenhouse around it, right? This is something that they can do with the materials available to them, with the resources available to them, that addresses a challenge that they were seeing. A great article here. Again, I will share all these resources with you about a teacher who's allowing students to identify a challenge, right? And then adapting to the challenge that they identified by helping them to figure out how to address it in an authentic way. Here, students are making connections, right? This text is a little bit difficult to read, but they identified some people who are in a facility for older individuals, an elder care facility, and they helped those people experience a little bit better life. They went and connected with them, a little cheer to their day, using the things they were learning in school, making those community connections. Just checking the chat a little bit here. Excellent. I think I'm all caught up. Students focusing on sustainable practices in their environment. This is a common one for project-based learning. How can we cultivate a successful economic environment, but also do that in a sustainable way in our area? There are challenges, right? We often operate in areas where there aren't a ton of resources. right? Did some looking into the statistics. The number of students who have access to basic materials sometimes is not where we would like it to be. But no matter the resources available, the heart of project-based learning is not in a fancy makerspace. It's not in having that latest and greatest technology. It's not even in those supplies. The heart of project-based learning is in the students. The students who you work with, the students in your schools, they have incredible skills, they have incredible talents, they have incredible abilities, and they have a passion. Students love to have a positive impact on their communities. And at the heart of great authentic learning, at the heart of great PBL, is helping those students unlock their ability to have a positive impact using whatever tools you have at your disposal. So, as you think about your area, you can just enter this in the chat. We won't do any fancy tech tools here. What projects do you think your students might like to work on? How might your students like to have a positive impact on your communities? Go ahead and share your ideas in the chat. Again, love to see the wisdom, the ideas, the experience come up from your side of the screen. Some environmental projects, I love that. Agriculture project, climate change solutions, wonderful. Seen some awesome projects ideas. All right, I'm going to be quiet and let you read the ideas in the chat. These are incredible. Implementation. I love the diversity of ideas here. After you've entered your ideas, go scroll through that chat. Maybe get some inspiration from some of your colleagues. There are more and more ideas popping up by the second. 17, 18 ideas I haven't read yet. This is incredible. So you've got a repository of ideas that people are generating that you might like to take and implement with your students. Helping students become familiar with technology, handling waste. That's a wonderful one. Skills training, erosion, wonderful. Writing and publishing a novel, so many different ways you can go with this, but it's all about helping students have that impact. I love it. 15 new ideas all of a sudden. This is incredible. Thank you so much to everybody who's sharing those ideas. Solar panels, marvelous. I love it. I'll give you just a minute to go back over since there's so many ideas there. Take a scroll and get some inspiration. Maybe jot down some of the ideas that you'd really like to bring to life with your schools or in your schools or with your students. Give you just a minute. So many ideas coming. This is incredible. Language learning, nutrition, wonderful. Love it. Indigenous language proficiency, outstanding. All right, so I'm going to collect these. We'll turn this into a resource, and I'll share that resource with the organizers as well, because there's such a rich collection of ideas here. This is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all those. Looks like we're starting to slow down just a little bit, so let's shift over to the how. Right, this is where the rubber meets the road. How do we bring these things to life in a way that's going to be successful? So in our work with teachers, we've come up with this tool. And again, you'll have access to this tool if it's useful for you. But this is just a simple storyboard, right? One sheet of paper that helps us collect the most important things about our project. Once we get that high level look at where we want this project to go, then we can dive down and hammer out the specifics. But this tool we use to help teachers really understand how to do this successfully. So it's got some basic things like the project title, the grade level, the compelling questions right up here at the top. And then we've got that holistic engagement right across the middle. We want to make sure that we are intentional about figuring out how this project will engage students emotionally. That we know what that hands-on component is going to be. What will students actually do? And we want to think about that cognitive component as well. What are those academic skills or life skills that they're going to be learning through this experience? One powerful thing about PBL is that it gives us an opportunity to connect students with the real world. So we think about ways that we can bring experts from our community in to work with our students and to help our students learn from that expertise. We also want to bring our students to the world. We want to say, how is this project going to impact that world outside the walls of the classroom? How will we integrate collaboration? So many people put teamwork down as a reason for doing PBL. So how will we create these teams and explicitly build teamwork and collaboration? How are we going to focus on engagement? Right? And then once we have that big picture, then we can jump in and explore the sequence, the scope and sequence of the project. So how are we going to capture their hearts at the beginning? How are we going to teach them the essential content? And then what is that engineering process going to look like? How will they do that work? How will we allow them to get feedback from us, from their peers, maybe from community members or people outside of our classroom, to get that feedback and to use it to make their work even better? And then what is that final public product going to look like? How are we going to have our students have an impact outside the walls of our classroom? A couple of pro tips. When people try to do this in their classrooms, sometimes they run into some specific problems. And we've seen teachers overcome these problems using a couple of clever little ideas. First, remember that your kids and their hearts are at the core of these experiences, and lead with engagement. When we start our project off, we need to think intentionally about how we're going to get our students to care. And that looks different depending on who your students are and who you are as a teacher. But we need to lead with engagement and really get our students invested. Spend some time thinking about how to build that engagement at the beginning of your experience. It's also important to give students the opportunity to improve their work as they go. So we talk about something called an MVP, or minimum viable product. This is a first draft, right? A rough draft. It lets students work on that first draft all the way up until right before that project is due, right? That doesn't give them an opportunity to make those improvements, and it ends up with projects that are not as high of quality. So have that rough draft due, have that first iteration due half or 2/3 of the way through the project. This gives them an opportunity to revise and refine. We also want to make sure that we're tracking what students are learning. I find a standards checklist to be very powerful. So I can jot down the standards at the top that I want students to learn, put student names along the side, and then as I see evidence of them using that standard successfully, I can just quickly jot down what my evidence is. That way I can keep track of who has shown mastery of each of the different standards and who still needs to demonstrate or show that mastery to me. A powerful way for me to organize how I'm thinking about the learning that students are doing. because we do want to have measurable learning associated with these experiences. When we do projects, quite often we evaluate by using rubrics, right? We clearly explain to students what success looks like. What does it look like if you do a great job with each component of the project? So building a rubric helps students get a clear picture in their mind of what success looks like. If you do the same project multiple years, it's also a great idea to collect examples because we want to give students things like rubrics and examples to show them what success might look like. I also love to use this to help give students feedback, right? Our teachers have found a lot of success with something called Rank the Rubric, where you just have students rank which one of these they think they do the best, right? Which part of the rubric they think they do the best, second best, third best, all the way down to the one where they feel like they're doing the worst. Once they've done that, you've got them essentially asking you for feedback. You can focus your feedback on the areas where students feel like they need the most support. That focused feedback is super powerful in helping students learn, right? They learn the things that they're struggling with the most, and in helping them produce products which are really powerful and impactful. If you have students doing group work, that can be a challenge as well. Some students do most of the work. Some students don't do much of the work. So there can be conflict about who's doing what, right? So in order to solve that problem, we use something called a Scrum board. I've built a super simple one here. On the Scrum board, students just list everything that they need to do as part of this project. And they list who's going to work on that thing. So there's a little example, right? You've got different components: choosing the focus, finding the facts, visual aids, planning the presentation, setting up for that final presentation. Students think of all the different things that they need to do. Then when this helps you see who is doing what at any particular time. When it's done, you can also sign up who was responsible for that part, which helps you look at that project and say, okay, who did each part? So if there's a problem in that area, I know who to discuss that with. So we love Scrum boards to help keep group work organized, to help make visible the work that's going on, to hold students accountable for having everybody have a job. If someone gets done with their job, it makes it easy for them to look back and see who you could help or what tasks still need to be done. This can be a really powerful tool for helping students engage in group work effectively. And last, we've got 4 main areas where teachers generally choose to try to have a positive impact, right? Sometimes it can be hard to think about exactly what kind of impact you want to have. You can think about any of these 4 different ideas to get you an idea for what sort of project to do. So one way that students can impact the world around them is to raise awareness, right? This is a project that was done actually in Nigeria where students raised awareness about gender violence in their community, right? They can raise awareness about a topic that they're passionate about and help people become more understanding of that issue. Students can also raise funds, right? You can put appeals out to raise funds for a cause that is important to your local community. Right? Again, another Nigerian student actually just recently won the Young Climate Voice Award and was able to secure thousands of dollars to help address a topic that she cared about. Students can also design solutions. I love this one where students are building something, using the resources available to them to try to have a positive impact on that problem. Several of you mentioned kind of environmental issues as projects that you might be interested in. Again, another Nigerian project. Students designed a simple, low-cost water filtration system that could help clean up petrol pollution in their area. And I also love when students make the world a better place by building relationships with people in their community who might benefit from connection with them, right? So students who are engaging in intercommunity dialogue, right? Those students who are helping out at an old folks home. Students, when they make those connections, can really feel the power of making the world a better place. And again, that's at the heart of PBL. So our pro tip here is to make that leap. Take the leap and have a real impact. One problem that teachers have with PBL is they end up getting a little shy at the end and just doing something inside their classroom. That takes away from the power of PBL. The real power of authentic learning is that students see that they have the ability to have a positive impact on their community and on the world. So as you think about PBL, as you think about authentic learning, I encourage you to take that leap outside of your classroom and to have an authentic impact. It's an incredibly powerful learning experience for students. So as we look back on our time together today, we started off exploring the why and thinking about the power of PBL. We did some thinking around the what. What are the characteristics of great project-based learning? We looked at those 7 gold standard elements. We looked at that start with why, think it through, work it out, fix it up, share your awesome pathway, right? We thought about those characteristics, had you generate some, and then we thought about how. What does this actually look like? What sorts of projects could you do that would realize this power, which would integrate these elements of great PBL, right? And that would allow you to show your students how they can make a positive difference. Through all of that, I hope you got that lesson loud and clear that at the heart of powerful PBL is people. The teachers in your schools, the students who you work with. It's their skills, talents, and abilities. It's their passion to solve problems, which lie at the heart of project-based learning. No matter your context, no matter your environment, urban, rural, what your geographic area is, there are problems that your people are passionate to address, and you can help them use their power to address those topics and do that in order to make the world a better place. We do have a couple of minutes left at the end. So in the chat box, if you don't mind sharing any questions that you have, anything that you wonder about PBL, I will do my best to answer a select few of these questions. Thank you all very much for the positive emojis. I love that. I hope that it was a valuable experience for you today. If there is any way in which I can support you, you've got my email address right there. Reach out, ask a question. I will do my best. I don't have all the answers, but I do have a lot of experience seeing teachers solve problems in different directions. So I'm happy to share that. If there are any questions now, feel free to share those in the chat.
While questions are being fielded to the chat, I want to first thank Ben for an outstanding presentation today. This was so uplifting. And I also want to thank you, our teachers, for participating so robustly in this. Now, after the presentation, Mr. Emmanuel Idiagi and I are going to ask you to fill out a brief survey about your experience with this webinar and the impact that project-based learning may have on you. What are the important takeaways that you we're able to derive from Ben's wonderful presentation. We want to learn a lot more about you and see how we can do a better job as organizations collectively. So help us out. Fill out the survey that you will get shortly afterwards. And best of all, for your participation, we will issue you a certificate, which I think everyone would like to have as part of their professional credentials to continue to advance in their careers as teachers and educators. So keep the questions coming. Ben, if you see any that you would like to address, I'm going to turn it over to you right now. Thanks.
That's great. I do see quite a few questions working their way through here. I think
Can we pin the webinar survey
what might be
link?
most impactful, I think, is if you have a specific question, because we are running short on time. I do want to be respectful of your time. If you have a question, if you could just send that to ben.tulsma@vai.org at that email address, I would love to be able to answer each of your questions specifically. And so I will respond to those over the course of the weekend. Please let me know, because I do want to make sure that you have the opportunity to ask and have those questions addressed specifically, but we are running short on time, so I'll be happy to do that electronically. Again, I'd like to finish today just with that big thank you. Thank you, first of all, for your time today. Thank you for all the participation. One of the highlights of my day was seeing all those ideas coming through. Please feel free to share those questions with me. I want to get all of those answered. But thank you so much for your time, for your participation. And then above all, thank you for the work that you're doing with your students, right? Thank you for the work that you do on a daily basis to make that positive difference on their lives and on their learning. Greatly appreciated that you do. It was wonderful to interact with you today. And please let me know if there's any way in which I can help you going forward. Thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day.
And with that, we will begin to close, but I would like to direct you all to the chat where Emmanuel Idiagi has put the form in for the survey. And then again, as Ben is saying, look to the screen, look to Ben's screen for as a way of directing your questions. Ben will try to answer your questions directly if you would please email him. But Ben, on behalf of the Murdoch Thompson Center and Intellectual Giants in Africa Foundation, we are so indebted to you and to VAI. This took us to a higher level than what we had been able to do before because of our collaboration with you and VAI. So I also want to give a special shout out to Victor Adegboye for his technical support for us. Victor is a member of the Murdoch Thompson Center Board of Directors, and his really saving buoyancy enabled all of this to happen. So thank you, sir, for your wonderful help. Emmanuel, any closing remarks?
All right, so I want the teachers to fill their forms, because I can see a lot of teachers trying to put in their emails. Well, I mean, we cannot copy your emails. It's so impossible. So what you need to do is to send your full name to that. So I don't know if there's a way we can pin that post, because if you don't send your full name to ingap2030@gmail.com, we can't send you your certificate.
So what you would like me to do is pin that post. Ben,
Yes.
we'll take it from here with our teachers. So we can let you run to your next appointment. So with that, thank you very, very much.
Thank you all very much. Have wonderful days.
You as well.
Thanks for all you do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ben.
Okay, let's put that survey link up, and I'll